If you're tired of not making progress and you're ready to be the artist you know you're meant to be, you're in the right place. You're listening to the Singer's Path podcast. The Path, or Performing Artists Training Hub, will cover everything, including singing tips that actually work, advice from top industry professionals, and life-changing mindset shifts. Out with the starving artist and in with the thriving artist. I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, professional singer, actor, educator, and entrepreneur. I'm not afraid to speak the truth and stop the gatekeeping of quality information so you can actually become the artist you dream of being. So let's get on the path, shall we? Even though we're all on our own journeys, it always helps to have a guide. Hello, and welcome back to the Singer's Path podcast. It's me, your host, Sarah Bishop. I'm excited to come on and talk to you today. And at the time that I'm recording this, it's, we're on the precipice of fall entering winter. I don't believe this podcast will be released until it's more properly winter. I believe it'll come up after Thanksgiving again. There's not much of a plan right now as far as when these are released. So if I'm a big fat liar right now, I'm sorry. But right now, as I'm recording this, we are still in the fall, and it's the fall season. It starts to get dark at 4 p.m. right? Especially with the changing of the clocks and everything. Seasonal depression can start kicking in. It's but it was just summer, not too long ago. And seasonally, and I should have, again, my friend who understands this more than I do, come on and talk about this. But basically, each season, we're attuned to the seasons just like everything else here is on Earth. But what's interesting is the paradox of how capitalism works and our society works in pretty much direct contradiction with what's happening seasonally. So what do I mean by that? That sounds really weird. In summer, it's more celebratory and sunny and it's about going outside and spending time and kind of seeing and enjoying the heat and, enjoying water and swimming. And there's all kinds of things that we do that also line up with the energy of, it's about play and having a good time. Actually, I think spring's a little bit more about play because everybody's excited that it's going to be summer. Again, I have to talk to the person that actually understands the energetics of the seasons and how it affects us. But what happens in the fall, with the harvest, right? You are looking to see what grew and what worked. If you're thinking about actually growing plants and how the earth works, things start dying and falling away, right? There's a death that happens in fall. And there's a noticing of what worked and what didn't. What was a harvest that brought you in a lot of abundance and what didn't. And there's also a lot of grief in death, right? Things are falling away, things are changing, things are ending. There's a lot of endings. And I've often found too that fall is a time where there's a lot of people that leave the planet. So there's just generally it can be spooky and fun, spooky season. I mean, it's kind of interesting because Samhain and, Halloween is also about the spirits have crossed over. There's, many cultures of the Day of the Dead in Mexico, right? It's a focus on death. And I believe seasonally, that's also because there's a lot of death around us, right? The trees are falling, the leaves are falling off, right? So there's death. So how do we experience that seasonally? I'm going to make a point here, I promise. We in our lives can start to feel a great deal of grief come up in our own lives during this time. I think because seasonally, it's the time we're about to go incubate and rest, or we're supposed to go rest for winter and, enjoy time with our loved ones and, sit by the fire and, use what we brought from the harvest and survive off of it and sit and, reflect and dream about the next year that's coming up. However, how capitalism works, it's kind of interesting. At the end of fall, and especially as a business, you can hear, maybe Amanda has edited this out, but my heater's on, thank God, because it's so stinking cold here. But how capitalism works is around this time, it's before Thanksgiving when I'm recording it. As a business owner, you know we're gearing up for quote unquote money making season because of the holidays. And I think it's just so fascinating that, again, capitalistic patriarchal structures of which we live directly contradict what our bodies naturally want to do. Like right now, we're just getting absolutely fucking bombarded with ads for buying things. And listen, you are absolutely going to hear an ad for something on this. You're going to hear me talk about a product on this because, again, I'm a business. So yeah, I do have to make money and talk about things. However, I hope to sell you things that are actually useful and that you can use over and over again and are going to help you return to yourself and to what you actually desire, not just sell you shit that doesn't fucking work, or help you genuinely, right? I'm all about making things that are of substance and value and things that I really see a need for, mostly because I'm making it for myself. But with this capitalism, right? Like our bodies, it's like at this time, if you're feeling this immense grief and reflection and frustration, and like there's a great deal of things falling away and stripping away in your life, and it's just not a very fun time, and it's accompanied by a lot of feelings and a lot of very uncomfortable emotions, and and you're tired and it's a little bit harder to move through, that actually makes a lot of sense. And not just because of the seasons, but I think it's also because it's like our body's natural, like slowing down, like, hey, it's getting darker. Like we should slow down and reflect on things and see what worked and what didn't. But then at the same time, the paradox is like, it's picking up. Like, it's like, all right, get ready for the holiday season, just when you should be inside, just like spending time with your family and, spending time by the fire and cooking and staying in. Like everyone's like, go out and shop and buy shit. Go buy a bunch of shit you don't need to fill a hole inside you. That's rash. I mean, obviously, I love the holidays. Listen, I'm a baby of the holidays. My birthday is December 20th. I've split my birthday with Jesus my whole life, okay? I've always met people that are like, so are you a little fucked up because your birthday is near Christmas? And like it always got overlooked. And I'm like, yeah, probably. I don't know. I think I'm fucked up for many reasons, but all that to say, that's what makes me special. All that to say, if you're just feeling like a little crazy in the brain right now and like you're noticing a desire to slow down and just kind of mourn in a bizarre way or grieve in a bizarre way, in a sense, I see you and it's okay. I'm talking about this today, and actually we were mentioning it in possibly some other episodes that happened earlier that should have already posted already with some other guests. But I think, again, part of this podcast is being transparent. We're about pulling back the curtain for obviously vocal technique and things that actually work. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible and, plugging those things that will help you and all of that. But also, like, I think as someone who grew up and kind of entered this field not on a whim, like I was following intuition, but I think it would have served me to know some realities of it earlier. And this is a reality that you're probably either going to get, you like are really going to get it and be like, yeah, no, I feel that exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. And then you might not get it. Like if I heard what I was about to say today back when I decided to go into this industry, I don't know that I would have quite understood it. And if what I'm talking about today doesn't make sense, then like, that's okay. There's like fucking, right when I'm recording this, like 30 plus some episodes that you can consume that maybe will make more sense for you. So this might not make sense for everyone, but I think if you're probably above the age of, I'd say 26, I think is when most people in some shape or form understand what I'm talking about here. So this is for you. And I just want you to sit tight and reflect. And with this, give yourself a little bit of grace. Again, if you're feeling a lot of grief right now. So today we're going to talk about grief and the voice specifically. And again, like I said, we probably talked about this a little bit in other episodes, but I was particularly at this time, I think it is seasonally, it is energetically, but like, I think also a lot of us, because I've had this conversation with multiple professional artists, friends. I mean, God, like all of us, like at this point, when you're in your mid 30s, this is a real thing. So there's multiple things to be explored here. But first of all, if I said the word grief and you're like, why the fuck are we talking about that? Like, I don't want to fucking feel grief. I don't want to feel sadness. Wait, I don't want to focus on that. Like that's not helpful for me. Why would I do that? I want to just turn some attention to that. And again, if you're listening to this and this triggers you and you're like, I don't really want to listen to this, that's an indication that you actually just might not be ready to look at this or it just hasn't happened in a way that's caused you to get your attention in it. Sometimes we can avoid looking at grief or understanding it or peeling back those layers because, like, I can speak for myself. I know for a long time I avoided being honest with myself about how I really felt about things because there was a part of me that believed that meant that if I looked at it, I would stop, which is kind of fucked up, right? Like there's a part of me that was afraid that if I was truly honest with how I felt about everything, then I would give up. And I would be one of those people that just got burned out and stopped. So there was this resistance and it was kind of this toxic positivity mindset thing because on the other end, yeah, obviously we want to focus on things going well and the positive and all of that. That's all valid. That needs to exist as well. However, when we avoid looking under the hood and being honest with ourselves as to how our actions and how we've chosen to engage in things, and in this case, in the entertainment industry, if we aren't honest about how that's affected us and we're not honest with ourselves in our continued choice of engaging with it and our continued forcing ourselves through something that without seeing the grief and without seeing what it's doing to us, that when continued, A, is going to make it worse over time, but B, is really a prime example of I believe, a form of self-abandonment. Because I think there's a couple things that happens. Again, we're avoiding grief because we're avoiding sitting with the part of ourself that sees how this isn't everything that we wanted it to be. And it's like rejecting an aspect of it's like fear of that being true, right? So if you're not sitting and being like, wow, and maybe this isn't you. Maybe you're really happy and you're not experiencing this. So, and if that's happening, I'm so happy for you. But I think, again, in some aspect, if you're a professional artist or you've followed anything in your life, I think there's a big difference between entering with rose-colored glasses, which is important to an extent to kind of keep you going and kind of get you to experience the thing. And then the feeling you have after getting the thing that you have pushed yourself to achieve because you're telling yourself that that thing is going to be a solution somehow, right? Or this is going to mean something once I get this thing. And when you do get the thing and lo and behold, it may probably not actually be the solution to the thing you've been running away from, then that's the grief. Okay. And again, there's other forms of experiencing this, but we're going to talk about it again in the entertainment industry and in a lens of oh, wait, this is not what I thought I signed up for. So there's that level of grief of understanding the industry that is an industry, which is kind of weird because it's based off of art and love and intuition and creation, which is not very industrial, right? It's that is the opposite of capitalism. And yet it is placed in a business and capitalistic world and structure. And I think one of my first encounters with grief that rocked me really hard, and I've talked about this before, was getting a professional job and understanding it wasn't summer camp anymore, folks. And I remember people saying that to me in college or in high school. And there would be people that come back. It was always so fascinating, guys. It was fucking crazy. I went to a top conservatory in the world, University of Cincinnati. And I knew some of the people that were a couple years ahead of me. So I was an underclassman and I would hang out with some of the upperclassmen, and then they'd graduate and come away a year later when I was still at school, and they'd give a speech after, maybe they booked the Book of Mormon or they were on tour, they were on tour or they were on Broadway for something. And I remember it was weird. I remember every single time everybody was so excited for them that they did it, right? They achieved the thing that they set out to do and were working so hard at school to be able to do. And they were one of the ones that did it, blah, 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 blah. And they came back, and a lot of them, there was a sadness behind their eyes that I can't really quite explain beyond that. There was it it was like a growing up in the sense of, oh, like I know what this is now, and like I'm happy to be doing it and I'm excited to share it with you. And yeah, guys, it's a little different out there. It's a little different out there than you think. And I remember feeling that was weird. And again, even in the moment being like, well, when I was like a little worried for them because a lot of them are really kind people. These aren't people, they're not, okay, let me be clear. I don't think anyone who listens to this podcast is going to think this, but if you do, hold the fuck up. Let me be clear. In no way or shape am I saying that if you're experiencing like a complex reaction to achieving something, if you are triggered if you were triggered by me talking about the complexities of emotions that are involved in the process of actually achieving your dreams, and it throws you into a fit of jealousy and resentment of being like, well, if it was me, then I wouldn't feel like that. I would feel so grateful and happy to be there. Bitch, I need you to hold the fuck up. Okay, both can exist. Both can exist. We need to, that is a really aggressive, and I believe, I don't know what's going on in your internal world, the lack of self-compassion that you have for yourself to shut down people in that way instead of observing and being like, wow, that person's like hurting and there's something here that I don't quite understand. I still want to do it and I'm not going to place judgment on this person. I think that's one of the main problems we have in the industry is like people who are like actively working know what I'm talking about. Like fucking hands down. But it's the people that like, again, they are not willing to look at the realities of it. And again, this is paradoxical. You can still be grateful. You can still choose to look at the good of things, but by denying the grief and the fucked upness about things as well, you are not being completely honest. And I think when, like, I've had this happen before when I've talked about grief or I've talked about like the realities of the industry, and I'm sorry, like a lot of people fucking suck. Like they're assholes. And I say that with my whole fucking chest. And I've said that on social media being like, it's kind of a fucking lie to say once you work, everybody's kind. That's not true. That's not true. And whoever is saying that is wrong. And then I've had people comment being like, well, in my experience working on Broadway, most people are very nice. I didn't say they were nice. They're nice. Well, most of them. Even that. No, they're not. But most people can be well behaved, right? They should be at the very least. But it goes back to the fact that it's a job. So any office, any corporation, any big corporation you work for, because Broadway is really just corporate. It's working at Google. That's what it is. Like, sorry, that's what it is. So if you come to me and you're like, everybody who works at Google is so kind. It's like, what? No, like there's probably some great people and there's probably not some great people. You know what I mean? It's like, I that really pisses me off, especially when I think there tend to be like older generations. It kind of gaslights people a lot. It's like, it's what it does is it denies someone's experience, this very real grief that they're feeling of the uncovering and understanding of this chapter of their life that they've entered in all of this work they've done this far to get to this point, and then they get there and hey, it's like literally not everything you thought it would be. And that's life no matter what, right? That is life. That's a growing thing that everybody learns in some capacity. But for someone older to come on and be like, well, in my experience, that's not true. And like, you just need to be positive. Shut the fuck up. I'm so spicy today. But like, I hear you. Yes, we do. Yes, you do need to choose. You need to choose how you think about things. We can't dwell here. This is not something you're going to dwell in that we're talking about today. No, you can't stay here, but you need to feel it through. You need to be honest with yourself, because the more honest with yourself you are, that's how you actually stay true to who you are, and you stop denying and gaslighting yourself into forcing yourself to do things and make decisions in situations that you've been taught are going to make you feel something versus just listening to what you actually want or need to do for yourself. So this is an integral step. You cannot push down the grief. You can, but good luck. It's going to bubble over at some point, baby. I don't know what to fucking tell you. But to deny yourself, hey, this doesn't feel all the way right. and then to be gaslit and being told like, well, you should just be happy to be here and like get the fuck out if you don't like it. Like, I'll take your spot. That is an incredibly unkind thing to say to someone who's going through this. So if you're that kind of person, I want you to fucking check yourself, because yes, I hear you, but there's a way to phrase it without completely denying that person's experience and that their very real, lived, painful experience of coming to terms with how much they've put on the line, how hard they've worked, how much money they've invested, and they do reach their goals. And that there's this sense of, oh, this realization is very unpleasant of, oh, this doesn't actually fix anything. And it points them to the actual grief that's lying under there. Now, that's obviously, again, a whole lot to do with just like working in the industry and like having your dreams come true. So there is some grief present in having your dreams come true in a way that it starts to feel no longer fulfilling in a sense. I've had a lot of people on Broadway that it's both. I acknowledge I'm living a privilege, and I acknowledge that I was a lucky person to complete my dream, and it's not the only thing that's going to make me happy. It's not all that it's cracked up to be, honestly. But I'm still happy to be here. Like, that is okay. Like, if that's you and you're listening, that's okay. And I think it's okay to continue to enjoy a dream that you worked really hard on. There's also this belief, like I kind of mentioned it before, but like, if you're not just like with a shit-eating grin and being completely happy and grateful to be there at every single moment because other people want that position and they will like literally cut you for it, that you don't have a right to like feel how you feel. And that's fucked up, like I said. So again, there can be both. And there are both. And there are both in anything. If you've been chasing your dreams and you still feel stuck, exhausted, or secretly wondering if you missed your shot, it's not your talent. It's your subconscious wiring and your nervous system. That's why I created the Singer's Path Inner Circle, which is an exclusive membership that gives you access to career counseling, to live calls, to exclusive content, and the very special Spotlight System program that we built with a therapist using real neuroscience and nervous system regulation tools. You'll heal the blocks that kill your momentum, your money story, stage fright, fear of being seen, and finally create from confidence, not chaos. And right now, if you take advantage of this founding member launch that's only happening until January 7th, you can get in for less than $2 a day. That is less than a subway ride, guys. And that rate, if you get it while this founding membership thing is going on, you get to lock it in forever, even if the price goes up later. No, if you join before January 7th, 2026, you get to keep that rate forever. Doors open Thanksgiving, unless you're listening to this and I decided to release it earlier. So let's make 2026 the year you stop surviving your dream and you finally live it. Details are in the link in the show notes, or go to sarahbishopvocalstudio.com to check it out, and I'll see you in there. So, with that, the other part of grief that can exist and where it gets trapped, I think a little bit more in our day-to-day, especially for singers, because a lot of you listen to this are listening because you're singers. The grief around our voice specifically is pretty intense. The voice is an incredibly vulnerable and intimate part of us, right? It's our most, as singers especially, when you can say with your whole chest, like, I'm a fucking singer. Like, I express from my soul with my voice. My voice is like my channel to God. Like, and I know there's some of you that are listening that feel that way, right? we especially are going to have some entanglement with our voice. Because especially if you went into it professionally. And if you don't relate to this, I am genuinely so fucking happy for you. But if you do relate to this, just keep listening here. So I think self-abandonment and like when you're grieving anything around your art, it's really you're grieving a younger part of you, or you're a part of you now, or time spent basically running away from who you really were in an effort to get work, to sound correct, to sound good, to sound enough, to be seen, right? So I think the grief that we experience is mostly grieving that either the younger version of ourselves that was like, what the fuck? Like, this used to be our thing, and like, what happened to it? What happened along the way? You're grieving the time spent running away from who you really are. You're grieving the possibility that your natural sound isn't enough, or you don't feel like it's enough, which is ironic. We're going to talk about the irony of that here in a second. You're grieving now that you feel like you've just lost your dream altogether. You're grieving that maybe you have your dream and you are singing all the time, but it doesn't make you happy. All of these things are so deep and so important in order to find the string that will lead you back to the original feeling of love and freedom, and really at the end of the day, self-soothing. Did I say that right? Self-soothing. There it is. This came up in a client session the other day. I don't work publicly with new clients, but I do have a few really high concentrated clients. I have not talked about this a ton, but where it's like referral and application only, and I have not opened up the application process because it's actually been pretty high demand. So, but it's for professionals who are about to tour or are releasing their album, or they're about to open a show on Broadway. This is like for people, like they need to be in shape for XYZ reason, for big projects, for like big things. And this came up in a client session of how, like, there are, again, I'm not a therapist, but sometimes in these deeper sessions, if you're a voice teacher, this, like, people can get very vulnerable. And I think that there's a direct link to like our soul and who we are, and it can be very complex. So your ability to be able to hold space for people and to be able to have conversations that are, again, in integrity and ethical, but like, are also not, you're also holding and seeing the singer is really, I think, an integral part of being an amazing teacher. I don't think that there is a division. Yes, there should be boundaries with it, but I think that if you are denying the student that space of safety, you are not going to get them to the level that they could go to, because they're probably not going to feel safe with you to do that. And I think it can kind of sometimes like gaslight them into like being rejected in a sense. So like, what's the boundary there? But anyway, we're talking about this with a client of, there's like this anger. It's interesting because I find when I'm working directly with clients, people will have these like blocks. And the best way I can describe it are like, they are energetic blocks. They're psychological a lot of the time. But I believe it's also like stored energy. It's stored something, some kind of story gets stuck. And I think it's a subconscious reaction. And it could be physically, if we're talking, it could be a physical response of like the tongue's grabbing, or the larynx shoots up, or there's muscling, and right? Or sometimes, and with certain clients, they haven't been able to, they just steer away from entire chunks of their voice, or there's just two notes that they just cannot fucking hit for the life of them until we sit with whatever the story is or the block that's there and clear it. And you know me, if you go on any of my socials or you listen to any of these podcast episodes, I'm all about cause and effect and the science and the tools. And yes, and there is an element to it that goes beyond that. And I think the top teachers know that. My mentors have talked about this. Again, it's crazy. The voice is so beautiful, but to deny that there isn't this soul link element and a manifestation of a sense, a physical manifestation of the inner stories that we hold on to, I think is doing a disservice. And I think it's not all the way truthful, right? So with these clients, sometimes they will have that energy stored. And like I said, until we unblock or we get clear or they get clear, right? I'm not going to tell them what the block is. Like they have to feel safe or be willing to talk about like what is going on around this space. Like there's clearly emotional charge here. What are we going to do with it? Right? And sometimes I'll do something called, it's an emotional clearing. So basically I just invite the student and, I, again, always get the consent and have them breathe and make sure that they feel comfortable doing this as something they want to do. But basically I'll just play some music under them and ask them just to be present with whatever emotion, if they're having an emotional day. And that's clearly present right there. Kind of just have them improvise singing over top of some chords and allow them in a sense, and I've learned what this is later more, but be somatically present with whatever the emotion is and just let it be. Just let it be. And again, I don't advertise to be any kind of therapist or any individually, like I am not a licensed mental health practitioner or anything. So that's why the new thing that we made, I hired people that were. So, I mean, I filmed the videos and everything, but they helped with the design of it and the exercises and to make sure that everything's in integrity and works. But like, I think even just allowing someone the space to share whatever they want to share, but also just musically give them a way in to allow the emotion and the grief more often than not to breathe. I find that, again, so if we're talking about it in a voice lesson sense, I had a client that, again, could not phonate around a B or a B flat for some reason. They cried every time they sang the note. And I was like, okay, well, you know what we're going to do just to kind of regulate you? I mean, clearly there's something here. So we're going to sing through the note. I want you to allow whatever is there to be there and breathe and just keep singing and just notice like what comes up in your head, like what wants to communicate with you in this space. And all you're going to do is you're going to kind of rock, you're going to move a little bit and you're going to sing on this note and you're just going to kind of be with yourself. And I think it's important to acknowledge that when this happens, it's not about the technique. The energy is the story, whatever it is sabotaging their ability to express what we need to do with the technique. So that's what I mean. This is like a last resort. Like we are hitting some kind of wall and honestly, it was something that I just intuitively started doing to help to hold the client and see them. And I'm like, all right, well, let's just, let's breathe with this. Let's sing on the note intuitively and see what comes up. And the kind of shit that comes up is actually wild when you give yourself the space to, again, it's not a parts work thing or anything, but if you just ask yourself, hey, I'm singing this note, like what is this part of me that is like feeling activated right now? Like, what is this? Just ask. And more often than not, like when I've done this for myself, and I've actually done parts work with several different people that do it. And it's actually so interesting because in my experience, this has been the way that I have actually been able to heal my relationship with self in the sense of like actually truly fully giving myself the space to truly be seen and acknowledged without judgment or feeling like I need to change it or I can't be there. And so doing this in a sense, like in a singing way, almost directly like allows the energy to move there and whatever version of self or story that is trapped in the voice at that point, just allowing yourself to sing on that without agenda and just allowing the sound to be imperfect and breathing through. And again, obviously not dissociating and leaving your body. If it's so activating that you can't sing through it, then in that case, I would suggest going and seeking professional help, right? But if you're by yourself and you're like, I'm having some kind of day, I'm going to just sing through the emotion and feel where it is and just allow it to be there and allow the sound to be honest in its expression of the emotion. The kinds of breakthroughs that I see people have is insane. And again, I don't pull this out unless it's just kind of one of those days, and kind of look at it in a sense of a way. It's like returning, we're all talking about grief here, but returning to when singing was a method of soothing ourselves. And it's almost like singing through the edge, being present with ourselves through the edge and through the emotional firing that's happening in order to get back to the place of like, oh yeah, I used to sing because it soothed me and because I enjoyed it. And with a different client, yeah, this happened. It was like in this emotional thing was happening, and there was kind of this clearing that was necessary. So again, just gave them the space of being like, listen, why don't I just play some notes and you just be with whatever feeling this is and allow it to be there. And let's just see what happens, right? And, just try to be present with yourself right now in this feeling. And it basically uncovered that they'd gotten away from the ability to use singing as a soothing practice, but in fact, like another part of them had viewed it as like they couldn't go high in their voice because it wasn't safe and all of this XYZ reason. And then, they noticed just like kind of this conflicting emotion around where they were feeling blocked and how it was causing them to feel so hard on themselves. It was kind of just an invitation to be like, okay, well, is there any way that you can continue to sing here with this version of you that feels like they're not being heard or feels like they're afraid, or like, is there a way to alchemize these complex relations with ourselves and these sensations into art? Because again, that's why we started, is it not? And I feel like part of the grief that we hold is that we forget that, I think. There may be an aspect of us that looks at, it's in resentment or in fear and frustration of like, this used to be the thing that regulated me. This used to be the thing that brought me so much joy, more joy than anything else in my life. This is the thing no one could take away from me. And then somehow I took it away from me. And how did that happen? And so if what I'm saying relates, if you relate to this, I see you, girl. I see you so much. I understand how challenging it is. And the only thing I can offer is a curiosity and openness to the possibility that maybe the way back to yourself is to sit with the frustration and to return to, I think, what is like basically like intuitive alchemization. Returning, and the problem is like I think it becomes a double-edged sword. People resist using singing to soothe because they know too much. Like, I've found myself as being a teacher, and like, although I mean, listen, guys, I sell you things to try to get you to help yourself be out of the discomfort and understand the technical element. Like just what I said with paradox, like that needs to be true. You need to understand how your instrument works. And you also need to be able to turn off your brain and just sing again. And if you're focusing too much on the technicalities of it, like I find myself doing as a teacher, and I can't just return back to my own joy again, then that's an invitation to me to sit through the discomfort and be with that emotion of frustration and understand for myself what is actually going on here. That I mean, yes, it's part of my job, but like if I'm experiencing such grief and frustration and sadness that I've come away from using my voice, like, why am I avoiding sitting with it? Well, it's probably because I know too much. I'm going to be really self-critical. Okay, well, that's an indication that there's a part that has completely rejected the younger version that used to soothe and not care. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's actually an invitation to see. It's valuable to see what you once loved so deeply, and it's an invitation to see how you can bridge that gap for yourself. And I know with myself, I've continued to avoid it because sometimes it just feels like too much. Like it feels too painful to reconnect with that version of self because I know what happened. Like I know how pure it was at one point, and I know the pain that went to get to this point. You know what I mean? And like to almost sit with it in a sense, it's like makes me fearful because it's like, well, I don't want to feel that again. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you want to return to the feeling of joy and love, you do need to be present with the grief so that you can free it and loosen the charge. And again, almost in a physical sense, this is what I'm talking about. In a physical sense, release the energy that's blocking and sabotaging your ability, because it's almost like this self-fulfilling prophecy. Like for my example, if there is a story, the story being, I need to fix what this is because it's not enough, then your voice and your subconscious is going to mirror that back to you. So that's what I mean. The only way to return back to, I just love singing and this is enough for me because I do this for me. This is soothing for me. The only way to do that is to sit with the part that's somehow learned along the way that your voice isn't enough and it needs to be completely fixed and changed all the time. That's the only way to do it. You have to acknowledge that. And with that is grief, because it's painful to realize, oh, wait, I'm not getting work because I need to sing this way. And I'm getting reflected back that like, maybe this isn't good enough. And maybe I can't find my way in this world and the dream that I held on to. And then the music I don't even like. And wait, I don't even like to do these shows. Okay, but I need to change myself. So the thing that I came in here doing that I had so much confidence in doesn't seem to be enough. Of course that brings grief. Of course that's painful. But then, like I said, the ironic part of it all is if you can look at that aspect of you that believes that there's this deep not enoughness and this fixing. And obviously, listen, I know I talk about it. I talk about it all the time about how you need to functionally. It's not that you need to stop working on your voice, right? But it's the belief that we're somehow broken and that it needs to be fixed. And that actually comes down to us. Like, I need to be fixed. I'm broken. Of course, that's going to manifest. But like I said, the ironic part is I think the minute that you reclaim that shadow aspect, so this is like kind of like shadow work. Like I push down into shadow my ability to accept that I'm enough. Like I'm not enough, right? That rejected aspect of self. When you integrate that and you accept it and you love it and you do get on board, your voice frees up. Like literally, muscularly, issues stop being an issue. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. I don't quite understand it. But if you can especially explore what I'm talking about in a somatic vocal sense, you will feel lighter. It's literally amazing to watch. And such a privilege to kind of witness people work through and see it in myself as well. So A, that will happen, but B, the ironic part is that you actually start to return back to the original dream, back to the original love, the original appreciation. You start to truly see yourself and love that. And that's actually what grows that relationship with you and your actual self-worth. That acknowledgement and that return back to yourself almost reignites your energy in a sense. And then it becomes magnetic. I don't really quite know how to explain it besides that. But when you fully accept everything about you, including how you feel like your voice doesn't do X, Y, and Z, and it needs to because of X, Y, and Z. When you accept that, hey, maybe like, yeah, I can do all these things and I'm a completely skilled musician, but like my voice is valuable. That's when like these kismet opportunities that seem to be perfect for you just come in. And when I'm talking about this, I'm really mostly talking about in the sense of like, especially if you're a classical singer and you notice in the current climate, like there's not a lot available for you because of like contemporary musical theater or whatever, or you don't feel like you quite fit. This is what I'm talking about is like, then we start to reject it and then we try to train it in a different way because we need to get work and yada. And yeah, you need to do that. Yes. And when you completely start to dislike and disown that aspect of you because it's not being seen as something that's important, even though it is your soul. How is that not rejecting yourself? Do you see what I'm saying? And I've had people online be like, I don't think that's what it is. I'm like, well, then you've clearly never fucking done this. You're not a professional singer. You don't get it, babe. You don't fucking get it, babe. And that's okay. That's okay. If you don't fucking get it, but don't come on my page and tell me this isn't a thing when I know with my full fucking chest this is a thing. It also might, if you have like a unique voice and you don't know where you fit, again, kind of looking past this, like, I don't fit, I'm not enough, like these stories that are attached to your voice. Like, I don't know what to tell you. They're energetically globbing onto your sound. When you look at that, it clears the space. And A, some problems that were there probably might dissipate. But B, people start being attracted to how authentic your voice is. Because there's no one else like you because you finally accepted it and you started using it. Do you know what I'm saying? And then that brings in a lot of opportunities. You start to glow when you return to yourself in this way. And so, I mean, I've seen a lot of teachers be like, find your authentic true sound, find your, but I don't think any of them are talking about this. That to return to the authenticity also means grieving and being, seeing how you're kind of upset with yourself that you got away from that, grieving that things are the way that they are, grieving the change in your voice and how you feel like you've gotten away from yourself. All of that. Yeah, that's part of it, babe. So any of these kind of shallow, like, just return to your, okay. And to truly do this, it takes a lot of like emotional work as well, and compassion and allowance, and truly seeing yourself in the purest, I believe, the purest physical expression. It amplifies it, guys. Being a singer and an artist means that you are more sensitive and in tune to things than the average person. But that also makes you more capable of alchemizing it into something beautiful. So like I said, if any of this fucking tracks for you guys, like at all, the noticing that there's a great deal of emotion, there's a couple things I want to say. A, you're not alone, babe. You're not alone. I know it can feel really isolating. Like really isolating, especially if you're only like in private lessons and you don't connect a whole lot with other singers or artists or whoever. So that's why I always encourage like group settings. I have a group class where this came up and it was really beautiful to see how people supported each other. I take part in a group acting class specifically. I'm looking to find another group singing class for myself, actually, in group singing and acting class. But the way that artists need to support each other and hold each other in front of each other and to share this is very important. So even if it's not with me in my space, if it's with someone else, that's fine too. But I think that's an important element of this, to be witnessed and to be seen. The other thing I want to mention is, and I hope Amanda ran this somewhere earlier in the episode, but I'm not sure. The inner circle, that's the brand new membership, was another space where you can connect with other artists. And again, the inner circle is cool because it's not just singers. It's anybody. It's anybody doing this creative pursuit of any sort. I speak quite a lot about performing arts, but even if you have anyone who's like a painter or sculptor or graphic designer or photographer or anything, a choreographer, anything like that, dancer, anything like that is also welcome in this group because it's about creative recovery. And if you related or you were curious about when I was talking about the energetic clearing exercise, or you are recognizing that there are stories that are they just feel trapped and you just desperately, at the core of your heart, you want to return, you need to return back to yourself. I really want you to check out that inner circle thing. Okay. The Singer's Path Inner Circle, I guess, is what I have to fucking call it because I can't, because of the fucking trademark, but whatever. But I'm so serious. And this is, if I'm so for real, guys, this is the most vulnerable thing I've ever made. I'm like kind of terrified. Like I'm going to cry thinking about it. I'm so terrified to release this because this community that includes this program that I hired the therapist to design. The program that will actually help you move through these things that's inside of this community is called the Spotlight System. And this if you're curious about anything I talked about and you need a space to work through this, that's going to exist in there. And the particular there is a whole section about grief. I think it's called Trust and Letting Go. And there's a whole thing about giving yourself space. There's professionally made resources, hypnosis that will do neuroplasticity and somatic release. Literally what I was just talking about exists in there. And there's also an entire program in another aspect of it called Artist Self-Worth. And there's a section called Voice, which is quite substantial. And in this, you will do the emotional sound clearing exercise that I was mentioning. You can learn to hold yourself and basically energetically unblock aspects of your voice. This is a big deal. When I say I was mentioning, I'm scared to release this because I know how powerful it is. And I know because I've done this work on myself for years, and it got to a point where it felt out of integrity not to share it. Because if my whole reason for having this platform is to help people, this is the best way I've been able to help myself. And by welcoming on people who have helped me and who I know that it works with, right? So A, I'm scared, but B, because I am still working through this myself, right? I'm not some like guru leader that's like, I have uncovered the answers to life. Like, no, if anyone fucking ever presents that, like they know everything, then that's a red flag to me. Because A, I believe all teachers are constantly learning, but B, like any of these things, like we're human. Like this is the most human product. I mean, obviously singing technique, yeah, very human. But like this is the most like human experience, vulnerable thing to create. Like it makes me come on here in a sense in integrity and talk about these things honestly with like my full heart and feel completely free to do so that it can actually help people on a level that will shift the way people live their lives. Like, and I don't say that lightly, but I do say it because I have experience in how my life has transformed from doing it. And if I haven't already released an episode about this, I need to. I don't know if maybe I have. I don't know. Again, I haven't recorded it at this point yet. But I want to have a whole episode where I talk about how doing this inner work and specifically hypnosis and neuroplasticity and somatic work and parts work, how all of those things completely shifted my life. And but I'm afraid because I'm still doing it. I don't think you ever are done doing it. Ever. I've come a long way and I can talk about it and reflect on why some things worked and, what I learned. But I'm still working through this grieving process, guys. Like, it's big. And this brings me back to what I opened the podcast with. So if you're feeling this right now, no, it's partially seasonal, but it's also just part of being an artist and being a singer. And returning back to your joy. And if you've lost your joy, that's okay. I see you. I also feel like I come in and out of my joy, and especially being a professional and knowing so much, it can be a slippery slope as to being too logical and too critical. But the other end of that double-edged sword is it's also an invitation to be more intimate with yourself and sit with yourself in a way and alchemize the energy in a way that kind of only singers can do. So anyway, I love you. I don't know who you are, but I see you. And if you relate to this, please check out the Inner Circle. I'm like just trying to help you, and I get it. And let's all work through this together and hold each other through it. Because at the end of the day, my goal for it is to have as many people return to themselves as possible and return to their joy. I believe it to the bottom of my heart that when people are actually connected to doing things that they love and they're living in alignment and they're making decisions not out of fear anymore, but out of who they really are and what they really want, and they love themselves enough to be honest with themselves and take the action that they need to take, I think the world would be a better place. So that's why it's here. And I'm doing it right beside you, babe. Right beside you. If you do the inner circle, again, the ad probably ran at some point, but if you do the inner circle, remember there's special founders pricing right now that's only available till I think the first week of January. So it won't be this low again. And if you're even considering if any of this episode was like, oh yeah, then babes, like let's start working on this. We could always buy a fuck ton of shit for Christmas that is just going to sit there and just have stuff, have things. But I know one of your core desires is to return to your love of singing and your art and to not feel like shit pursuing your dream, right? So, I mean, again, I went through a lot of effort and work to make this for myself, to make me do it. So I'm just saying, because I am very similar to you, let's not make excuses and talk ourselves out of why we shouldn't do this for ourselves. Because again, is that another level of self-abandonment? I know that's bold to say, but like, again, is that just another way not to sit with the grief and to stay kind of where you are? You know what I mean? Anyway, I know sometimes when I'm like plugging things, like my style of like being like, guys, can be a little bit like a slap in the face sometimes, but I don't know. I guess I'm strong about it because I get it. I get it. And I just want you to love your voice again and be happy expressing, and again, use it to self-soothe. So just think about it. But you only got till January 6th, and this is founding member pricing. I think if you get the annual, it comes down to less than $2 a day. So there's also that. There's really not a lot of excuses. Okay. Anyway, I hope you choose this for yourself. Yeah, that's it. I hear you. I see you. If you like the podcast, remember, send us a 5-star review. If you send a written 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you take a picture of it and you send it to singerspath@gmail.com. My lovely assistant Lily will get it, and we will enter you to win a free private lesson with me. And we just did our first drawing a little while ago when I'm recording this, and it's really fun. So it's a thing. I don't know how frequently we'll do it, but my goal is quarterly, but I don't really know, so don't hold me to that. It just depends on how much time I have, honestly, to block that out for that. But yeah, so that's something that's a way to give back. If you did leave us a review, just know you're also in the pool. If you sent me a screenshot, if you didn't send me a screenshot, then you're not in the pool. But you'll continue to be in the pool. So we'll just draw from the same pool every time. And yeah, so so go ahead and send a review if you like this. If you didn't like this, I'm not quite sure how you made it to the end. So I guess thanks for listening. But then my name is Beth, and the show was called The Singer's Parts Podcast. No, what am I saying? Who's to say? Anyway, I'm tired. That was a deep conversation. Maybe go do something nice for yourself. I'm like drained after that. I'm like, whoa, okay, I need to go do something lovely and restore a little bit before I have a client. But yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And if you're sitting in this kind of diaper feeling and it's just a lot, I see you. And I hope you join the inner circle to learn ways to hold yourself through it. Until next time, I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. This helps me get this information out to more artists all over the world. Let's work together to spread the joys of music. Until next time, I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, signing off from the Singer's Path podcast. Thanks for listening.